Oh boy, do we have a tough one. Avenged Sevenfold or Dream Theater. I try to find out my subscriber's name that requests these, but I didn't feel like going and searching, and I should have wrote it down. But I've had a few people ask about this comparison, and it sounded too tempting to overlook. So to whoever had requested this is to you and everyone else. Quick story. Let's start with Dream Theater, okay? When Dream Theater's first album came out, well, technically their second, but kind of when they broke into the mainstream, was early 90s. With an album called Images and Words. I was driving in my car at the time, and I heard the song, and I heard touches of, like, I don't know, it was a song called Pull Me Under, and it reminded me of like Whitesnake or something, but I knew it wasn't. And then when the solo came up, I totally knew it wasn't, but I already knew that it wasn't. And I'm like, who the heck is this band? At that point, I was probably 21, 22, and I'd been playing for, 10 years or whatever, 9 years, and, kind of established foundation and playing. Wasn't buying every album that came out anymore. I was married and probably had one in the oven, my first daughter. So, life was kind of taking over. I was playing in bands and stuff at the time. But that album excited me so much, I actually pulled over because I didn't want to miss, and I was hoping they would say who it was. And when the song ended, they said a band called Dream Theater. So I instantly went that day and bought the cassette tape, Images and Words, and I've been a huge fan ever since. Petrucci's kind of a mix of a lot of my influences from other bands in the 80s prior to Dream Theater. You got the Malmsteen, you got Schecter, 𝐓𝐻, just a lot of players that mixed in one. Yet Petrucci also had his own style. So, and the whole band, I'm a drummer too, so I could tell these were just quality players. Mike Portnoy, the drummer for Dream Theater at the time, he reminded me of a Prodigy type of Neil Peart. You could tell that was someone he had listened to. There was no doubt that there was an element of progressiveness even in that song, which was more of their commercial song, but you could hear they had chops. Some bands are like that. You can think of bands like Steely Dan and Toto and Kansas, and they'll just do certain things that'll make you go, wow, this is a studio caliber player. And lo and behold, I found out they were all music school grads. So, and then vocally, here in Dream Theater, hearing the range of James LaBrie, hitting some of his Jeff Tate notes, just real exciting. And then later on, a band comes around in the late 90s called Avenged Sevenfold. I think they formed in 99. Their first album, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet, came out in 2001. Then they had Waking the Fallen, City of Evil, Self-Titled, Nightmare in 2010, which... rest in peace, the Rev, the original drummer, was no longer with Avenged, and they brought in his drum hero, Mike Portnoy, and I think that album Nightmare is phenomenal, man. It's killer. And then they had Hail to the King on the stage. For me personally, I wasn't a huge fan of Hail to the King, not a big fan of the drummer they ended up getting after Mike Portnoy, if I'm stating the right album here. And now the guy they got now, Brooks, is just a monster. To me, Avenged Sevenfold is kind of like Dream Theater. It's just more modernized, maybe a little more youth-oriented for the younger generation of metalheads, but great players. I wish I could remember song names off the top of my head, but, I remember teaching at this store in Riverside, when Avenged came out, and my metalhead students were all wanting to learn Dream Theater, or not Dream Theater, but Avenged Sevenfold. So figuring out their stuff and thinking, wow, finally a breath of fresh air in the music industry for us shredders, Grunge, as you are quite aware of, killed that for so many bands in that current scene, so just loved it. Sinister Gates is a great player, and Avenged is a great band. Some songs vocally I love, other ones I don't love, but I felt the same way with Dream Theater. Like the way LaBrie sings and Pull Me Under, love it. I love the long instrumentals, like Metropolis, with Dream Theater. But they're really kind of like the daddy-son band. You know, you had Dream Theater, and then, you know, a decade later comes Avenged Sevenfold. Touches of Metallica, you know, in there. And even Dream Theater did too, the heaviness. Love the tone of both these bands. To compare them, you know, I'm going to have to go with Dream Theater because it hit me first and it excited me first. But I have to tell you, man, Avenged is just, out of the players in the biz, in the rock metal scene, you know, there's not a whole lot that can surpass them, in my opinion. At least that is famous, you know. But there's some great, you know, modern players coming out, man. Some guitar players, I'm probably going to say his name wrong, but Tosin. It's probably not Tosin, but Tosin. But there's some good players, but just different style of music. So I'm going to have to give the edge to Dream Theater in this one. I can go on and on about them. I think they're phenomenal. They're inspiring. And when you find a band, you come across a band that inspires you as a musician, especially as you get older, that's a good thing. And it really lit a fire under me. It makes me want to go back and, you know, even my last band, we started learning Metropolis, and we never finished it. But yeah, can't say enough good about both bands. But I'm gonna flip this like I always do. This is Q&A time, man, and I want to know what you guys think about both these bands. Give me your honest opinion, you know, because that's all this is. This isn't me saying my opinion's right and yours is wrong. This is just you guys are asking me. You want to know what's ticking in my brain and how I feel about these bands and how they may have influenced and impacted me. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. Put them in the comments below. See the subscribe right there? Sign in and subscribe real quick. I'll just wait. Okay, you done that? We're done? Okay. Check out my paid services I offer for some extra instruction. Add me on social media. Subscribe, share this stuff, and keep your questions coming. I'm going to keep the Q&As. I'm getting a lot of emails. You guys are loving it, and this wasn't initial plan with this channel, but it's kind of turning into all things musical. At the forefront will always be the teaching, but I enjoy doing these. It lets me reflect on what's brought me to this point, you know, and what's driven me, and a lot of you guys want to know what's making me tick and got me here as well. So I want to know the same for you. All right, subscribe, share, comment, like, all that good stuff. Till next time, keep rocking.